Hey, Tommy. Welcome to the show. What would you like to say this morning?
Hi, Lurie, and thank you for taking my call. I would like to create or have a discussion with you about this concept that the DNC is pushing when it comes to misinformation and disinformation.
Well, first, I just want to say it's not the DNC is not pushing something that's not what they're pushing. That we understand what we know about misinformation and disinformation from reports that came from entities like the Department of Homeland Security and others that have studied the way that international and domestic entities have intentionally put out false information in ways that's very hyper targeted towards specific communities in order to produce a particular result. So this is not a function of the DNC. This is a function of communication campaigns, and this is something that's been happening well before 2016. A lot of black women were talking about this in the early days of Twitter with Gamergate and the ways in which black women were sort of set up as the test dummies for this sort of effort. So this is something that people have been talking about for years and years that goes way beyond whatever the DNC may be framing it as today. But go right ahead.
Well, I think this is a perfect example of instead of allowing me to speak my point and us have a discussion, you immediately jump to
some of you don't belong in the category.
Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you immediately jump to a defense of the Democratic Party.
Calm yourself down.
That, hello?
Yeah, so here's the thing.
Here we go again.
You can be quiet now. So here's the thing, Tommy. You and I do not have the same level of power in this situation here. So while you are a caller into a show called the Lurie Daniel Favors Show, I am actually Lurie Daniel Favors. And so while you have no obligation to maintain any level of intellectual integrity with my audience, I actually do. So my obligation is when I hear people calling up to the show who want to suggest a particular frame that I know from my factual research and the work that I do on the ground to be incorrect, I have an obligation as the named for whom the show is eponymously named. I have an obligation to make sure that I am reframing your misinformation and your misframing so that my audience understands that this is a space where trusted voices are going to be allowed to communicate. Go right ahead.
Again, censorship. That I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. Black voters buying into certain content.
I'm sorry. I just heard you right here. I hear you talking. The audience hears you talking. You're able to talk. This is what you're calling censorship is correcting the record, which again, because this is a space where we believe in integrity-driven communication. So you call it whatever you want, but it's going to continue. So do you have a substantive point you would like to say?
I can't make a substantive point because you keep cutting me off every time.
I can't make a substantive point. That's 6-7 words right there. You talking a lot, but you talking so much about what you can't say. You see, this is what I'm talking about. What you instead of talking about what you want to talk about, you're talking about the things that you don't want me to stop you from talking about. Instead of just making your point, do you have a substantive point you would like to offer?
Yes, I do.
Offer it. Go ahead.
The substantive point that I'm trying to make is censorship. Trying to stop people from talking because you're afraid that the average person can process information.
You're talking right now. You were saying something about the Democratic Party and trying to silence you. You're literally talking right now. But you don't have license to talk in all spaces just because you have an idea that you want to come out of your mouth and into the ether. Because just like I had to encourage my audience to be intentional about the thoughts that they curate, we also are intentional about the words that we say. What do you have to say, Tommy? And I'm really at this point having fun with you, so you got to make it a good one. You got let's hear the point.
I am trying to make the point that when you tell someone what they can and cannot say, you are going against the fundamentals and the basic principles in which the country was established.
Slavery?
And
genocide? That's what the country was founded on. What you talking about? Like we. Yeah, but thank you for okay, one last time. I'm sorry, I'm enjoying this. One last time. Go ahead.
and you are telling the individual you are not intelligent enough to process information and to be able to.
So Tommy, you're saying you're calling a show to talk about misinformation. and you don't like the way that I'm curating the way that we're negotiating or having this conversation with each other. And quite frankly, I don't care, because this is called the Lurie Daniel Favor Show. You have a microphone, you have a telephone, which you obviously don't know how to use properly because you're spending your time calling us, talking about the fact that we don't want to have misinformation. What we're gonna do is we're gonna hang up on you now, because this was like 4 or 5 back and forth. You ain't made not one substantive comment other than to say that you don't like how I curate the discussion. And so what I do when I'm engaging with people who I don't like how they curate a discussion, I stop engaging with them. You do not have to listen.